Hey everybody, so this is the second English podcast. We're starting to do a few more podcasts in English because I want to have like as much people as possible, and I want people to be super comfortable when we're discussing movies, and I can talk in English, so I really don't mind. So I am with a very special guest today. It is McGachy from the Vox and Hops Podcast. You've been doing that podcast for like 2 years, right?
That's right. I just, this past October was the 2-year anniversary of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast.
Yeah, and you had like a special release, right? You had like something with Overhop, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I did. I was very, very lucky. I reached out to my good friend Patty Rios of Overhop Canada, and I just pitched her an idea just like that. I was like, how about we do a collab to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of Vox and Hops? And it was an immediate yes. It was super easy. She's like, what do you want to do? I said I wanted to do a double dry hop New England IPA. She's like, what kind of hops do you want on it? I named off a few hops that I love, and from that, Citra made it in. Their brewer, Gabriel Perron, who is a very, very cool, huge metalhead. I've had him on the podcast before, too. He's an absolute metal brewer. He wanted to do work with Vic's Secret, so that made it into the brew, and then Patty wanted to experiment with Enigma. So it was an amazing brew. I loved it to death. It was called Vox and Hops, 7% ABV. Double dry hop New England IPA, and it went super fast. It sold out in a matter of, in like 2 weeks, just about everywhere. And I'm excited. I hope that we make it again. There's been talks about making it again, so I imagine it shall return.
Yeah, I almost didn't get any. Like I was so scared. I was like so hyped up because I was there for the 1-year anniversary when you also did a collab with Le Fermentor, right? It was another New England IPA, right?
It was called Highway to Hops.
Mm-hmm.
And with Le Fermentor, who I love to death as well. That was another easy conversation, just a simple message back and forth, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I went there, I brewed with them that day. It was actually the first time that I ever went to see anyone brew a beer, was that day back in September of 2019. And that was great. The 1-year anniversary party is still one of my favorite days of the podcast's existence, in interviewing the original vocalist of Cryptopsy in front of a group of about 50 people was very cool. It was very, very cool, very, very exciting, and I'm stoked about it.
Yeah, we wish we could do another party, maybe for the 3rd or 4th anniversary. Who knows?
Hopefully, fingers crossed, but
yeah.
I won't do anything until it's safe for myself, everyone else, and anyone who's coming, anyone who's working, which is why my band Cryptopsy has been inactive since the beginning of this pandemic.
Yeah, but you've been like very active also. Like you've been doing, like, if people don't know, you've been doing like those like drinking like hours where you invite a bunch of people on Zoom, right?
That is correct. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started something called Thirsty Thursday Virtual Hangs. That is just about a year old now. This blows my mind that I've been hanging out with people from around the globe on Thursday nights for over a year now. It started very, very naturally. I just, I was lonely. I was at home with my wife, and that's amazing, and I love that, and my kids. But, I wanted some human interaction. I wanted to connect with some of my music friends, some people that I've toured with that I missed, my bandmates. Some of the Vox and Hops alumni, and I just created a Zoom link and threw it out there to my friends like that, and the first one was a hit. After discussing a little bit, I decided to invite some Vox and Hops heads to it, the fans of the podcast, so that they could come hang out with some of the Vox and Hops alumni and myself, and it just blew up. There was times that we were 50, 60 people all hanging out on Zoom on Thursday nights, enjoying craft beer, talking about our lives, talking about the just the positive things. I very quickly learned when hosting a Thirsty Thursday during a pandemic not to focus on the negative things of a pandemic, because that gets dark very quickly. So we just focus on positivity, things that, creativity, and while enjoying a craft beer. And I did that every week from March until September, until at that point now I just hosted once a month. And during that I do a live interview with a previous guest that I've already had on the podcast. But there are still Thirsty Thursday gangs. They hang out every week, whether I'm there or not, and it's this whole community that is formed, from across the globe. It's absolutely spectacular and something that I could have never imagined happened, but it did, and I cherish it, and they're amazing. And we just had a really cool one the other day, and it's always fun to be with them. And I can't wait to go back on tour and hang out with everyone in the flesh.
It's really cool. Like it's one of those things that with like everything that's been happening, it's one of those things that it just puts a smile on my face to see you're one of like so many people that are like trying to keep like a sense of community and everything, because like the world of beer, and like as you've been pointing out on your podcast, the world of metal in general is like a very tight knit community. Like everyone knows each other and everyone misses like being with each other, because like those are like very like high octave moments, right? Like
Absolutely.
everyone,
beer
yeah.
releases, we go to beer releases here in Montreal. We're going to see the same people, or we go to a festival. We're going to cross brewers that we know and then those craft beer enthusiasts that we know. We're going to hang out. We're going to have those conversations. We're going to get to know how those people are as humans beyond just being a craft beer enthusiast. It's the same thing in the metal world. You go to a metal show, you're going to end up seeing the same people there in the same city. If you're a fan of something, you're going to have the community there, and it's something very important for me to foster it and to give a place for people to keep hanging out and to bring the two worlds together, because they're very similar. Craft beer, we are fighting the big beer markets. We're trying to axe our way onto that small, store shelf, trying to gain more and more ground, which I am seeing a lot more happen in the stores across Quebec. Near my house at least, there's a lot more craft beer sections that are opening up, and it's the same thing with extreme music, extreme metal. There's a huge population that don't listen to it, that don't know it exists, and it's the same thing with beer. So we're both fighting the bigger bad guys, and we as a small community, tight-knit community, we can just keep growing and inviting more and more people to join our quest.
And it's really beautiful what has been going on with like beers. Like with COVID, we just keep hearing about how many people like started to launch themselves into microbrews because they were like pushed socially to be more like locally involved. And like micros have been telling us, man, if it weren't for the public, a lot of us probably would have went under. So it's really beautiful to see what happened this year. It's really great.
Yeah, and at least the government has finally caught up a little bit, allowing the brew pubs to now can their beers and sell it in stores. I'm still waiting for that. Just lift the archaic laws of goddamn letting people ship to our houses. It's so ridiculous. I don't understand it. It's something that it was founded after Prohibition, and the fact that it's still happening now 100 years later, just about, it's ridiculous. Just let us have what we want. We're adults. Let them deliver to us.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if we'll change the world here, but I mean, maybe someone will hear it somewhere. So I like what I like about your podcast. It's a bit like the same concept as like, I think you inspired me to like how you were talking about having small communities, like you blended like the beer world and the microbrewer world with like the metal like world. And what I was trying to like do with the podcast was kind of, again, like you said, kind of get out of like those big movies like that everyone watches, like discover all those like small little gems and stuff like that. So I was like, Matt is more than qualified as a guest to come on the podcast. You're really you're one of the first ones, and you'll be a legend for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
So we'll go in with our beers and the movie. So it's dry February. Is that the term? I'm not doing it.
There's many names to it. I coined it as Vox and Hops' sober February, but I just like the ring of that. Dry January is already a thing, so I've been planning this since October, so I just called it sober February. So yes, all month of February I am not drinking any alcohol. I am enjoying a bunch of non-alcoholic brews because we are very lucky here in Quebec, and the non-alcoholic scene is growing a whole bunch. So there's a lot of really cool products that are coming out this recently on top of it, so it's a perfect timing for me. And all of the episodes that I'm releasing, I'm actually releasing 11 episodes in February, where it is based around finding a balanced relationship with alcohol, trying to find a way to enjoy it, but still enjoy life just as much. So I'm trying to promote that as much as I can. I think it's super important, and by doing that, I've hung out with a bunch of rock stars, 4 rock stars in particular, who are now sober for various reasons. I talked to a doctor who has a PhD in a master's and a PhD in nutritional sciences, and we talk about exactly what happens to the human body with alcohol. That is a very interesting episode, as much as it's very depressing.
I think you're gonna lose listeners on these ones.
But he's super cool. So he's actually like a metal dude, and he's from Germany. His name is Christian Deegan. It's actually coming out this Friday, and it's a great episode, but it's very informative, and there's nothing good about alcohol, so other than the fact that it's delicious, and it helps us relax a little bit if that's how we use it. I also have a sober coach that's coming up on the podcast. He goes on tour with rock stars to help keep them clean, to talk with them, stay with them, and keep them occupied and keep their mind in the right place if they are struggling. And I also have I did an episode with Leslie Buck, who just started releasing non-alcoholic brews as a way to survive due to the pandemic, and Bière Sans Alcool, who launched during the pandemic, and they only make non-alcoholic brews. So a bunch of very interesting episodes coming out this month, and I'm very long-winded, and I have a podcast, and that's why. But we are going to drink non-alcoholic beer, and what beer are we going to be drinking there?
We I love how you just introduced the whole Quebec scene being amazing, and I just came up with all those European beers. But I mean, again, I think it fits with you. They were the first ones, and they'll be the last ones standing. I think they're in terms of micro beers and non-alcoholics, people in Europe, they've been ahead of the curve with non-alcoholics. It's been very, very strict in terms of laws and things like that. They were requiring a lot of micros and big companies to come up with a bunch of non-alcoholic brews, and as a matter of fact, they're kind of the best ones, I would say, right now with what they're doing. So I think I'm gonna let you choose which one you want to open first.
I don't know. We got. I think we have the same. I have the Limbo Lime, the Limbo Framboise. I have the Limbo Riesling, and I also have. I don't know if I have the exact same pack as you. I also have the Henry and His Science. Is that what you have as well?
Yeah, I exactly have that. That's the one I have.
Excellent. Obviously from Mikkeller. Mikkeller is from Denmark, right? And every time I play Copenhagen, I always make my way to their little tap room. It's absolutely amazing and delicious. They also make a bunch of collabs with bands, which is very cool, and I would love to get them on the podcast one day, so that's a goal for Vox and Hops right there. I think we should start fruity and go work our way elsewhere.
Yeah, so let's go.
Raspberry? Raspberry?
Yeah, raspberry. Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. Actually, the only one I didn't try yet is I was going to say is only the Riesling, but I don't think I tried the lime. I think I skipped it. It came on the market, I think, in the summer, and I missed it.
I think that's the same for me, actually. Because I think that they were the SAQs at first, right? The raspberry one? And Henry and His Science as well. I actually enjoyed Henry on His Science with Randy Bly from Lamb of God when I talked to him last year, which was very cool because Brewdog released a non-alcoholic beer for them because Randy's been sober for quite some time now. So that's what I enjoyed, and I haven't had it since then. So cheers.
And I raise my glass that I got from Jules, my friend Jules from Les Enfants du Bon. He got me this little vitriol glass that's super cute. I'm gonna put a picture on the podcast, and we'll see.
This is cool. There's it's sort of creamy. The raspberries come through nicely. I like how they have it the 0.3%, which is it's hard to do because of they have to cut the fermentation before the yeast does anything to it, right? So it's delicious. It's really cool. It's not too sour.
Yeah,
a lot of these Quebec non-alcoholic raspberry non-alcoholics craft beers, are very tart. This is more of like a creamy thing. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. Because that's the thing. I wasn't really into sour beers that much in my preferences in terms of beer for a while. Now I'm kind of diving into sours, but it still feels good. It kind of reminds me more of like a good like white like Belgium style beer.
And then a lot of these non-alcoholic fruity ones tend to feel juicy, as if you're drinking like a fruit juice. It is very scary though when you look at these cans, and I wish that there's a reason why alcoholic beers don't do this, right? There's the nutrition facts, right? So you look at this and you see that this one beer in particular has 113 calories, and you don't think about that.
And we're drinking 4. We're going on for out for a run tomorrow. Sorry, hey, not even gonna have any alcohol in my body. I'm already like not talking correctly. So yeah, I mean, good beer. Also, a good movie, because we didn't talk about the movie yet. Really good movie. You chose it, but we both didn't see it prior to like doing the episode, right?
I have seen it.
Oh, you had seen it?
Yes, but I just saw it last week.
Okay. But before like I gave you the choice, you kind of went on a limb. You hadn't seen it before you made the choice, right?
Exactly. That's correct.
Yeah,
I knew that I had
to
hit you up with a movie that we were going to talk about, and I was watching it, and I was like, oh, this is a cool movie. I like this, and this could be the movie.
Yeah, so why do you think... I always say that to all my guests. Why do you think you chose that one in particular?
Well, I think it has a lot to the guests. Did everyone, all the listeners, know what the movie is that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, I was gonna post it, but it's The Sound of Music. So it's a movie.
No, the Sound of Metal. The Sound of Music.
Right, it's because it's the sound. It's like a joke on The Sound of Music. It's like a link towards that, but it's The Sound of Metal, which I found was so funny. And so a movie that was almost like more than 10 years in the making. When I was like doing my research with the director. Took so much time to do because he took like so much care into making this movie, but we're gonna go deeper into this later. So yeah, a movie that was released like in 2019 and like on the platform I think in 2020 if I'm not mistaken with my dates. So yeah,
I chose it definitely because I'm a musician. I play extreme metal, and taking care, proper ear health is something that I gained late in my career thanks to my wife, Jessica, who encouraged me to take care of my ears, about 10, 15 years ago. But I had already been playing for probably 10 years at that point without taking care of my ears, thinking that I was taking care of my ears, but I absolutely wasn't. And, just imagining having everything and then losing it all to rediscover, more than just life without hearing and life without being able to perform and to do what you love, but also rediscovering who you are as a person throughout that journey, and then sacrificing everything, which is what musicians do to make their dreams a reality, to realize that you didn't even need to. It's a crazy, amazing, it's a perfect musician movie, and if people haven't watched it, I hope that they do after listening to this.
Yeah, I will. You can still talk spoilers. I guess that's gonna be your spoiler warning for people, because I always tell the guest that I want to go into spoilers and everything because I want to discuss every part of the movie and I don't want us to feel restricted. But yeah, like I was scared because I told Matt, I was like, I love your podcast, but I'm so like not into the metal scene that like sometimes there's things I could just cannot like pick up and understand. And I was also a bit scared like when you showed me your choice when you told me I want to attack that movie, but I was following a bunch of like blogs and people kept like putting it in their top 10s of 2020 and I was like, okay, well, if they're not musicians and they liked it, I think I probably will have a chance to like it. And man, that was a really solid movie. It's really incredible. Like you said, it's not just about music, it's about like self-discovery. And as I was watching like interviews, they were talking a lot about like how it's almost like a parallel to what we're living through right now, in which we are living through like a health crisis of our like personally, and we have everything taken from us, and how this can affect our like our psyche, but also kind of the questions of what, because the character always comes back to, oh, I'm gonna get back my hearing, I'm always gonna go back to it, there's gonna be a solution to everything. And I like what the director said, like, what if we don't get like life back the way we think we could? Because that's not a question that a lot of people are asking themselves. Like we a bit like the character are kind of like just seeing ourselves and just like, this is just a bump on the road, it's not like a permanent thing, but it could be, you know? So I really like that perspective, and kind of like the notion that the director was talking a lot about how it's like a movie about being a workaholic, being like always in that like our societal obsession of keep trying to repairing ourselves and always trying to find like a practical solution, when kind of sometimes you just can't fix everything. Like sometimes you are just broken and you have to not just come in peace with it, but kind of embrace it as a part of you. And I thought it was very, very beautifully made and very beautifully executed. And I'm sad I didn't watch it 3 times or something, because I feel like it's the kind of movie that the more you watch it, the more you see new things, kind of. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it more than once.
No, I only had the chance to watch it once, sadly. I deeply enjoyed it. And I do see what you're saying is like sometimes we won't come back. And it is absolutely like a workaholic mentality. Because if you see like in the movie when there's in the RV, there's posters of the band up on Decibel magazine posted up all over. So they're a big band. They made it. Like this is a band that has worked hard, that got signed, that are touring. As much as it doesn't look like the shows are that spectacular, they're a band. They seem to be like a cool band, a hip band, an underground band, something that has a bunch of, like a buzz about them. So they've worked very hard to get here, which falls back into the workaholic thing. And it's very normal for musicians to just keep trying. No, we'll do this one. We're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. And just watching him just slowly realize, especially at the end, that he just doesn't even need to do that anymore, and he's almost discovered like a new life's purpose. It's very interesting. As an artist, it's a very sobering, sober February, sobering experience watching this movie and seeing, maybe his dream was wrong, because he obviously does deeply enjoy connecting with the youth that he met in the deaf community. I hope I'm using the right word. It's probably a
they refer to it as like the deaf community, and as I was doing my research, even the filmmakers were like referring to it as the deaf community. I think that in French it's more it's not like the same world. It's not the sourd, it's malentendant. But I think that in English it's less. I guess it has less of a stigma to it.
Because then even like if in the malentendu doesn't even fit into what this community is about, because they don't care about hearing. You know, they're it's not something wrong with them. And that scene, that crazy scene, the dinner scene, and how noisy it is.
Yeah.
And how long they let it go. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was very, very, I I like watching movies like that. I grew up, my wife studied in film, so I got my, my early education of all the classic cinema, and much to my dismay in our early relationship years, I wasn't as enthused to watch all these art house flicks. I wanted to watch the big blockbusters, but I'm very happy that we did that, and that she educated me so that I can appreciate movies like this and scenes such as that one where it is a very noisy dinner scene and everyone's slapping and trying to get their space, but without being able to actually capture someone's attention sonically. It was very, very interesting.
If I may like start talking about experience, because I think I'm gonna try to open it to you if you had like any experience with this particular community. I remember very vividly going to a restaurant during the holidays and seeing a reserved table of I would say like around 30, if not more, people that were like had difficulty, had like the hearing and deaf community, and I've never seen people so expressive and so happy to see each other. It's very beautiful and moving to see how much they seem to like care. And I also had like a job during the pandemic where I was basically paid to go from one car to the other to sell food, like during an event. And I had to struggle to like tell them, and like I knew they were deaf, and I showed them, and they were so like respectful and kind, and they were really they were so happy that we would take the time to serve them, and not just be like, oh, forget it, like I'm not able to, like I'm not gonna take some time to try to make their order because I have other things to do. Because I had some other colleagues that were like, oh yeah, I couldn't do it, it was so complicated. I was like, yeah, well, it's a bit difficult, but you have to respect these people and treat them like real people. It's just like a different world, and try to make compromises. And I also liked how the director and everything, that again, like they were talking about how they barely scratched the surface about the deaf community being like a culture. Like it's not just like a secluded community. It's like an actual, like, it's not just like an asterisk in what we describe like society, I thought it was very beautiful how they shed light on them. And,
absolutely. And you absolutely should have served those people, because if they're there, they are a human and they deserve to be served. And I'm glad you took the time to.
It's just because it was like quick pitches and everything. We would go from car to car for like 10-15 seconds. So a lot of people would just be like, oh, I'll skip and go to the other car. But I was like, oh yeah, I know it's going to take me 2 minutes to do my order, and I might be like back from like other orders. But I was like, we actually bought a lot of food. Like they were like big families. So I was like, well, guess what? I've done a lot of sales with like the community on that night. So like, you know what? It was a good day. But yeah, no, I again, like, to go back to it, what I also found interesting was how this movie kept like subverting your expectations in terms of how they would portray situation. Like you thought this was gonna be like a movie about the deaf community, but it was not exactly that. It was like about like people that were actually recovering. It was like more specific, and you just thought it was like a support group, but it's actually like a very niche, like cultural, like family kind of dynamic. So again, it kept just like going back and like being always surprised on how they would like just show these people in these situations. Like you were expecting the character to get frustrated and just leave and whatever. But when he happens to leave, it is so heartbreaking because it's so sad because he just broke the group's trust with what he's done, and it's so sad to see because you know that the character the character I forgot his name. I'm really not good with names.
I'm horrible.
But his mentor is so sad to have to tell him to let him go, but just the fact that he has done what he's done destroys the whole ideology and the like hope that is given to like these people.
It's true. It's very true.
So that were my picks. I don't know how. Maybe if I know you might not like approach it in like a more cinematic. I think again I'm gonna use you as like an interviewee kind of thing. Do you? Because I heard a lot of people like say that this movie is like one of the best representation of, in terms of like as in like cinema culture representing addiction. What do you think, not addiction specifically, but being representative maybe of like how you said like it's super close to being a musician? Can you develop on that maybe? Like specifics about the movie?
Well, just the whole imagining everything going away. And then, there's that scene when he's playing and the guitarist is turning over and looking at him and going, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's trying his best, he's trying to play the song the way he's supposed to, but he's completely lost. That is a terrifying moment on stage. First off, there's nothing worse than being on stage, and it's happened, a few times, of course, when you have no idea what's going on or where you are in the song, especially when I joined the band early on. Having tackled so much material quickly to jump onto that first tour, I remember being on stage in Mexico, which was in San Luis de Potosi. I'm saying that horribly wrong, I'm sure. And I screamed this long scream, and sometimes when that happens, you sort of feel faint and you don't really know where you are. And then you come back to reality, and it's sort of like coming out of a tunnel. Like you just sort of like boom, back to reality. Here you are, and you don't know what. And then if you don't know the song, especially in extreme technical death metal, everything changes very quickly. There's not things that repeat. So I was lost a few times. So imagining that part of the movie, and it was very well depicted, where he's obviously desperately trying to keep the song going, but she's looking over at him saying, "What are you doing? What is going on?" And then there's the other part where he looks at her and he says, "Wait for me, please wait for me." And we think at first that he's talking about their relationship, which at one point I think that he is, but he's also talking about for the band. He's saying, "Please wait for me. I'm going to get better and I'm going to get back out on the road with you." And that's why he gets so upset when he sees that video of her performing by herself, right? Mm-hmm. So here they are. They've crafted this art together. When you're in a band together, especially a band like that, they were just two people. It's so intimate. On top of them being a couple, on top of her running away from her father and everything, to go live with him. A lot of emotional stuff went into creating this art that they noisily play for their fans, and it's very hard for a musician to think that you're going to lose that, and it was completely, was it out of his control? They also said that a lot of it is tied to all of the drug abuse that he was doing, that you can go deaf as an effect of that. Am I correct there, Charles? I feel like that happened.
I think it was explored in when he goes see a doctor, but at the same time it was kind of those scenes were very, like, the way they were edited, they were not made to like be super well understood, because they were like very like centered around the character like losing his hearing and everything. But there is like a lot of like side effects to consuming like a lot of hard drugs that can ensure like schizophrenia, like amongst the biggest. And I think like when he goes to the center and they say like, what do you consume, and he says everything, it kind of like shines light on like, oh shit, yeah, that probably is one of the reasons why. But I think that like the story was not like, that's what I kind of like about this story. It wasn't trying to like frame everything as like absolutes, as being like, oh yeah, doing hard hard metal will get you deaf, or like doing hard drugs will like make you deaf, or anything, or again, like when a lot of what people like the most like the part of the story that a lot of people get shocked from is when he gets the hearing aid, and there's like a lot of people like they get very polarized about if it's a good or bad thing, and it's something that has been discussed like in the deaf community a lot, and it's like a very heated topic there. And the director has been very, very adamant that this movie is not taking a stance on it. He mostly like decided to show a community that does not accept it as being like a part of like the whole like community, but it's not a movie that's saying it's good or bad. I think it's just trying to show the, I would say, transparent reality of it. And for me, I found one of the most moving parts of the movie was when he gets his implants. Like, it was a very moving movie, but man, those scenes really hit hard when like you start to realize what his life is becoming, and the sheer artificial aspect of it.
Absolutely. And you know, him having sacrificed so much, thinking that you know, here I am, I did it, I got the implants, I'm gonna go back on tour, everything's gonna be back to normal, I made it through the rough patch, but now here we are, and it's completely not what he expected. Because it sounds like shit.
Yeah, I was oh my god, when I heard this the sound before, I had so many flashbacks of film school when your audio shit and you're showing this to a class and you're like, oh fuck, I look like an idiot. And like our teachers like kept saying, is like the line in which amateurs and filmmakers is drawn with shitty audio. Yeah. And I think it's so, again, like so powerful sonically, because we have a character in which music is his life. Like sound is like such an intricate part of his life. So to rip this away from him, or not just like rip this away from him, but like just kind of like giving him the whole like genie in a bottle kind of promise, and then just like having such a bitter end to it is kind of so dark and like so like I would say also mischievous, like almost like evil, like almost like there's like an evil side of the universe that's trying to fuck with him. Like
yes, and it's also like the healthcare system. He went there looking for an answer, but he didn't ask the questions. So obviously the healthcare person didn't explain anything to him, and that's something that happens to many people when they go to the doctor or anything. They don't actually listen, or if they do listen, they're not actually hearing what they're saying. There's a lot of information that happens when you go to a medical person, so it's always best to have someone else there to ask questions for you, because you're very emotional. Someone level-headed, because, you know, maybe if he known that what it would sound like, he wouldn't have done everything that he did, you know, selling his touring vehicle, which as he sells it to the people, he's like, I'm going to buy this right back from you. So
yeah, that was so funny. Like, why would you do that? Hey, I'm deaf. Shut up. It's yes or no. That was so funny. I was like, oh God.
But I could see, you know, a musician doing that. And and then, you know, just, you know, going to that dinner party when he finally hooks up with his, he goes to his bandmate's lover's house, father's house, and she's so much better without him. That was heavy.
Yeah, it was heavy, but at the same time, I also love their intimate scene because on the one hand, I was very, very sad about it because he had like the scene opens with like them talking about their performance, and you hear at some point what he hears, and it's fucking shit. And then that he has to like lie and be like, "You sounded magical, like beautiful." Is so heartbreaking because he can't be honest. Like he's been such an honest person with her, like the whole movie. He's been like super like transparent with her. He's never lied to her, and like to just blatantly say it because he's trying to hold on to like this relationship because he, like you said, he sees that she's really well. Like she also doesn't need him. But as the scene progresses, it kind of tricks you because she's like, even her, she realizes, she's like, yeah, I might be like, you know, not super fucked up on the outside right now and everything, but you saved me. Like, don't take this for granted, what you've done. Like, I might be in like a very nice house and everything and all that, but like personal like help and like saving someone at their like lowest is so much more valuable than being like socially like stable or like socially well, kind of. I guess
It's interesting that she doesn't seem to have the same artistic itch as he did. She went on and did that solo performance, but now she sort of doesn't seem to be someone that wants to pursue the band, someone that wants to pursue that artistic side of her, at least at this point in her life, from what I saw.
mm-hmm.
That's my musician analytical brain thing. What's up with you? You don't want to go on tour anymore? You're on the cover of Decibel. Come on.
I thought it was also I really liked how the whole like emotional baggage was dropped so abruptly on the character and on the viewer, as it were, and I thought it was so realistic because, you know, in life when people like kill themselves or like divorces and stuff like that, it like there's no like violence, and like even when you talk to someone, it just kind of just comes out, you know. It's not like in the movies. It's not very melodramatic. Usually people, they're just like very upfront about you, like especially like around COVID, like I had a lot of people talking about separations and deaths, and it's so like a punch in the face, and that's how it felt, and that's how I really enjoyed how it was portrayed, because you get from her like backstory, you get like how her mother died, how she committed suicide, how she her mom took her away from her father, and she ran away in the span of 2 sentences.
It's true.
It's crazy. I find it's really crazy.
It's very true.
Anyways, a lot of very dark stuff. But yeah, I how do you think like, because I'm a very like in terms of filmmaking, when I was in film, something that I really enjoy was sound, and I always like to, because I know you said that it was very realistic how they showed like the shows and things like that, but what was your relationship towards sound specifically in that movie?
Well, I think it was very interestingly handled, you know, going from the very noisy beginning of a live performance to switching in and out to when he can hear, what he can hear, and then to the actual sound of the room of what's happening that he can't hear. I thought it was handled very, very well. I honestly don't remember any music in the movie. Am I crazy about that? There was no soundtrack aside from...
There's no soundtrack. In an interview that I watched, the director said, "I don't like watching movies that hold my hand, and the score emotionally holds your hand."
Mm.
And I thought that was very powerful because he said if I would have put a score in the last shot of the movie, it would have lost all credibility.
It's true. It's very true.
And that last shot is very long.
Yeah.
It feels so long because it's so silent. Like it's crazy. I was so I was like, it's still going. And I think it's just like the most uncomfortable situation, but at the same time I thought it was like I think it was the most powerful scene in the movie.
I think so too, and I feel like he's finally serene at that point.
Mm-hmm. We'll take a break. Do you would like to open another one? Like just take a break from the conversation?
Sure, let's do it. Where are we going?
With,
Let's do one you haven't done on me as well. Let's do that Riesling.
Yeah, let's get that Riesling. I was gonna say the same thing. So
perfect.
Riesling. Yeah.
So I like how they call this an ale primitive flamand. So it's a primitive Flemish ale with Riesling raisin juice from their own wine vineyard.
It is like so. It sounds so hipster the way you describe it. Primitive ale.
Well, they know, I don't know if you've been to Denmark. They can be pretty hipster in some aspects, but they do have very cool metal bands as well.
Mm.
Cheers.
Cheers on this one. I make too much foam, so my taste might not be as good.
This one's very sweet.
Yeah. But kind of tart, too.
Yeah.
Has a nice tartness to it.
Oh,
It's very light. It's very light. Oh, my God. That's like an ultimate summer beer. That's like a plus 35 sitting by the pool kind of beer.
I don't think I've had a Riesling beer before except for in New Zealand.
Mm.
From the Garage Project when I was on tour out there. I feel like I had a brew that had some Riesling grape juice in it. I'm getting sort of the same vibes, but obviously that one had alcohol.
Didn't I think that La Saison Macérée of
from Le
Castor, I think it has like a Riesling. Also, there's like a version. I think there's I think the white wine version is sur marque de Riesling, and I think they have also the vin orange.
Yes,
also,
yes. Le Castor is doing very well. They are one of the reasons that I started getting into the craft beer scene here.
So, what is your first micro brew that got you into it?
Oh, the one that really got the party started was, of course, the Yakima. The Yakima IPA from Le Castor. Before that, I was dabbling already. I would buy Dude Sale once again because of Jessica, my wife. She really liked the artwork, which we could have a whole podcast about their rebranding.
Oh, yeah. I think
it funnily looks a lot like this McKellar.
Yeah. It's crazy how they look like them. It's almost like a ripoff.
But, I still respect Dude Sale, of course, and, you can do whatever you want with your brand if you want, but, me... With Cryptopsy, I would never rebrand a classic album's artwork just to fit in with the modern times. Do whatever you want with new products, but keep the old ones the same. That's just my thing.
Yeah, I encourage a lot of people to listen to Pia's podcast, the IPA podcast. He did like an episode on the changing scene, and he discussed like there was a whole segment on Jude Sien, and I thought it was very interesting the points he pointed out about like being a micro that has been in the world of brews for like almost like 20-30 years, and literally like being in the market that has exploded in the last 10 years. They kind of almost just went by the wayside because they wouldn't just pop out anymore, like in the whole like shelves and everything. But I feel like there's the little hipster side of me that agrees with you also. But I mean, like you said, I think you could do whatever you want. It's your company and everything, and I respect what they're doing, and that doesn't mean that would be something I would do. But again, I don't have like a world-renowned micro that I'm managing, so I can't really pronounce myself on that.
I'll still go to Journée Pêche.
No, yeah.
If probably won't be one this year, but next year for sure. And I'll definitely get my 4-pack because that's always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, they're always so fun and so good. Oh, anyways, back to the movie. One thing, one of the characters that I kind of wanted to discuss a bit more that we didn't really cover is the character of Joe, played by Paul Raci. I'm probably not gonna pronounce it well, but you know the one that manages the whole the whole house. You know, has the community. There's a lot of backstory to him, and like I said before, like the director writer, like if you see the movie, like the director Darius Martyr, he wrote, produced, and directed the movie. Like he was this movie was his baby, and he was in pre-prod for like more than 10 years, so he wanted the movie to just be just right. And when he chose for the character of Joe, like this actor is like he's a 2-time drafted Vietnam veteran, and he had like a lot of he was very present in the deaf community, and he was integral to like the story. Like when he met the actor, he was like, he did some rewrites because he based basically the character all around him. And I thought like that he knocked it out of the park. Like that was one of the performances that they all did a very good job, but I was more like even touched by his performance than the leads, to be honest.
It's true. It's just so was that actor actually deaf?
No, but he was, I think he was born from he was born from 2 deaf parents.
Wow. Okay. No, he killed it. Great performance. Super believable. The character, as much as he's tough, he's super loving. He rules with a iron fist and a velvet glove. Forcing the guy to go sit in the room and to write into this book to try to get him to relax. Focus.
That's the complete opposite.
Focus on your problem. Not a problem. Accept your new life and to start healing, start grieving with what he no longer has, so that he can move forward. Which is, I think that's really what's happening at the end of the movie. He's finally ready to sit down and to write in that book, just about.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was so powerful, the message he was trying to like expel into the world and try to make him like understand. Because I feel like he's the kind of leader that kind of lives his trauma through all his like all his guests that come in, and he's really trying to share all of his like experiences. And unfortunately, like when you are in that position, I feel like you think that you're the like it's only your way that's like the solution. And I think like it was beautiful for him to think that way, but sometimes it doesn't fit. And I think that's what was happening with Ruben's character. Like he was going through a lot, and he wasn't ready for that, but he couldn't see that he wasn't ready for that.
That's correct, yeah.
And I found it was so sad that he needed to waste so much, not just like money-wise, but like emotionally-wise, and even like all the energy that he has given just to realize something that he could have realized at that at this retreat. and it's so sad to me that you have to be ripped of everything to start realizing things. Like we are at that. I feel like we are at that point, like in the societal perspective, where I feel like it was a very like for me when I was watching this movie, it really like reminded me of technology and how we're like surrounded by those things and how we just can't take a break from it. We're always like stimulated and always like at the outlook and always like consuming, and we never take the time to sit down. And when I was doing like writing, and in fact I had like a writing class, and it was really and my teacher was like, it's not a joke, you have to close your Wi-Fi, you have to close your phone to sit and think. It's almost like you don't think. And I feel I am I wrong to see this in that way? Like you are also a very creative guy. What's your perspective on that?
Oh, it never stops. Yeah, I'm always on. I'm always trying to think of something, trying to do something extra, whether it be for the band or for the podcast or for life in general. I'm always coming up with these ideas, and that's why I'm very lucky that Jessica, my wife, is my producer, so I get to just bounce these ideas off of her. But it's very hard to disconnect, which is something that we're trying to do, trying to instill moments where we're not working, not glancing at social media, trying to connect with people further. But I've been realizing a lot with the podcast through that social media is one thing, but if I'm working too hard on social media, the people that are on my social media already know the podcast and already fans. So I keep thinking that I'm going to gain more fans by doing social media, but that's actually not true. So I'm trying to just find some balance, as with alcohol, with technology. And it's true, and it's actually a very good suggestion to turn off the Wi-Fi, put the phone away, and just take some time to live as our ancestors did in boredom. Because that's where the best ideas will come from. When we have to use our brain without the stimulus of a little red number notification telling us that someone has said something.
And I feel like even with, I know we were already this way, but I feel that even with the actual pandemic, we've been like so separated from the real world that we kind of like sunk ourselves into the virtual world, because that's the only place where we could like get together, in a sense. Like we could like feel at home and feel a sense of community, but at the same time kind of like made us like a weird like symbiotic relationship where like you said, we're only like craving for the buzz or the red little light that comes up, as you so well put it. And that's why like me too, like during like the pandemic, like that's the example I was giving before. When I was a kid, I used to write, read all the time. And with like work and university and everything, school, I never sat down to read a book for like 5 years. And when I was done school and when I was off work one day, my girlfriend said, take a book and read and close your fucking phone. And that's what I did, and it felt so good. Felt so good. I don't know if maybe you could live this, but you said that it never stops for you, but I feel like that's kind of another way you could interpret like how he was trying to like emulate that, because when you suffer so much, you're always like stuck in that loop. Like what they're going through is horrendous in terms of psyche, what they're dealing with, and trying to like cope with the fact that they completely changed themselves.
Especially him, and I think a lot was tied to the band, but the band was also the relationship, and maybe she didn't even really want to be in the band anymore. And she was only staying in the band because she knew that it made him happy, and she feels like she owed something to him because he saved her.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe all of this is sort of tied in, and he's just so struggling to keep everything going that he's not even, he wasn't even ready to even consider taking that time to try to think of what this new life is going to be like. It wasn't even an option in his mind. He was just, this is just a temporary thing, and I'm going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like how you said that there was no solution in his head in which he wouldn't get fixed.
No,
Like
it's a
just
pure artist way of thinking. When you're on tour and everything breaks on your van, there's never a thought in your mind that you're not going to make it to the next show. You're going to make it to the next show. And you're going to do whatever you can to get to the next show. Why? Because you're out on tour. And why are you on tour? To play shows. It doesn't matter how much you suffer, how much you sacrifice. It's this artistic way of life. There's every band practice, every hour he's put into learning the techniques, every shitty job he worked to pay for the maybe even the drum lessons, the drumsticks, the cymbals. Everything went into getting him into this van to go play that show. So there's no looking back when you're an artist sometimes. And sometimes it's many years down the line. You look back on something and say, man, that was stupid. We should have just stopped. Especially I've been lucky with circumstances of my band, and I've actually been very fortunate, not really gotten into, I know many bands have gotten into ridiculous debt just to continue a tour when they're playing to 20 people a night. But it was very important for them to do it at the time, and at the time there was no other option but to continue. So I'm sure that's where he was, but I think it's also tied into the relationship of the band, and the relationship is one weird symbiotic being in this movie.
Do you also, I think the simple answer will be no, but do you think that just the mere fact that metal is so, I would say, countercultural to like the normative media, if we can say so, do you think that it just strives you as an artist to just always push forward and just always not look back, and always in like this weird like Olympian kind of force to just with or nothing? Like, you will lose your hearing, you will lose your leg, you will lose everything, you're still there because you've sacrificed so much.
Well, I think that any artist will that. Look at Olympic gymnasts that are going through qualifiers and everything in horrendous pain, but they train so hard to get there. I think it's anything that a passion that you strive towards where there is no real end goal, that's where it's hard to gauge when you've made it, when you've succeeded. So you always just want to keep pushing harder. So it's not just about extreme metal. Pop punk can do it. There's 7-year-old kids that are learning how to play the piano and violin very intensely, and they love it, and their parents see that they love it, so they encourage it, and then it grows from there. And it's something that you just do. It's something that it's a part of your life, being a musician, being an artist, and you just keep going. You keep going until life takes you somewhere else, but you have to sometimes hit a wall before you realize you've gone too far, which is what happens in this movie. And you know what? He could have worn earplugs, but that would have helped a little bit for sure. But I think it's probably a mixture of that and the drugs abuse that happened in this movie, in this case. But drummers that hit hard like he was hitting should definitely wear earplugs. Absolutely.
Talking about drummers, I think another scene that I found was very moving was because, again, like playing with expectations. That little kid in the classroom, I thought he was gonna be like the little asshole that he has to deal with and is like kind of mean to him or something. He had like this, I think there was like this weird mean demeanor, like he was always like off a bit. He wasn't very paying attention and everything. So you thought he was kind of a troublemaker, but when they step off, they go to this like playground and he drums on the
slide.
The slide. And I thought it was so powerful because it came from, I don't know if that kid was born like with the defects or if he lost it like the main character, but it kind of, it was so beautiful how it unified them.
Absolutely. And there's the whole, that scene, what it became to me in that scene was, I thought of Beethoven. Because Beethoven composed a lot like that by lying, from what I've read, he would lie on the ground, cut off the legs off his piano so he could feel the vibrations. So that was it was a nice, powerful scene, and it's something that I could see happening, because I work with young kids. I would definitely see myself doing that if I was in a situation like that, to try to share, because you want a good drummer to share rhythm and to share this a form of sound through vibration with the child. And it was powerful. It was nice. A lot of very thought-provoking, powerful scenes in this film, which is why I liked it so much.
Also, I found that it was very interesting how nobody lost faith in him ever, and it kind of opened my eyes to the whole like recovery, because you always hear about like people that recover and like have difficulty and people like, especially in movies, you have that trope where like there's someone that like, oh, you're not doing the right things, but everyone was so respectful of his journey, his like time it took him. Like nobody was like, oh, you should be learning this right away, why aren't you, kind of thing. It was so respectful how they all like respected how his journey, and the teacher was very like beautiful, but also the whole like family like that he was living with, like the whole like that you kept like coming back to the scene with like the dinner. The dinner, yeah. How, but even like at the end when he gets kicked off, it's not even personal. It's not he doesn't attack him personally. He says, "This is what you chose. It breaks my heart, but it's just, it completely doesn't work with the faith that we're trying to work towards. And this is not acceptable here." So even then, he's not attacking him personally. He says, this is the way you chose to choose your path, and I respect that. I found it was so mature to see it that way.
I imagine that a lot of it is based around the recovery with substance abuse, the way that is shaped, because a lot of that is shaped around you help a person, you give them everything they need, you're there for them, but at the end of the day, it's up to the person to take that step and to make their decisions. You can't make it for them, and I think that a lot of that falls into that. Another great scene was the when he learns the sign language and he wants to compete against the kids to try to get there, to go through it faster than them. That was one of the only heartwarming scenes, where I was
like the only time we see him smile.
Exactly. Where I think it's the one time I laughed throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, I had a smile up my ears. I was so happy for him. I was like, thank God, finally he's like trying to like deal with it and like trying to like understand it and embrace it as a part of himself. And then the next scene, he goes out to sell his RV, and you're like, fuck, he didn't get it.
But yeah. That's the artist that doing everything just to get that feeling again. So I think I have it in me for one more beer, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Limbo Lime will end up. I'm envisioning this primitive ale, this primitive Flemish ale with lime, to be a bit more tart.
Opening the lime here. Oh yeah, that looks like lime juice.
No, it's not too tart again.
Oh,
Similar
man.
to the last one.
It's very. Haven't gotten it. Oh my god, that's a sour candy in a can.
That's cool.
Oh.
There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in Quebec. Non-alcoholic right now. We should definitely give a little light to Le Saint-Boc, their new brand, Le Bazar Brasserie Artisanale. So good what they're doing right now. They have their Wow New England IPA that is probably one of the best ones I've had at 0.5% ABV. It's very, very tropical. Still has a nice profile to it. The color could be a little bit better. It's sort of still a little light, but flavor-wise, nose-wise, it's incredible. I had the new Barbarie raspberry one.
I haven't tried this one yet.
It was really, really cool. Very, very cool.
Nice.
The body could be a little bit more creamier, such as the one that we just had before from McKellar, but the nose and the taste was amazing. Very, very, very cool stuff happening. And I really like Le Ralbuck's.
Yeah, I was gonna say Matinee.
Very good. Very, very good.
Yeah. I think we could explore a few little things that maybe we didn't explore in our certain things that we didn't cover. This what I don't know if you know that. I'm pretty sure it's old. It's as old as the earth. But there's this story about the king. I think it's King Solomon, the king that touches gold, wants to be the richest man ever, and touches gold, but yet cannot appreciate his riches because he turns everything into gold. And it kind of reminded me of that story, this movie with the hearing aid. And I just want to go back to this last thing. I was so moved by the fact that, because he leaves this place, and you expect the whole distortion and discomfort through a big party. It seems natural, but having a little stroll, for me, it is so indicative of a peace in mind to have this little stroll down the street and being completely bombarded with all those minuscule sounds keep hitting you so hard, and then it just crescendos into this big the bell that hits, and he just rips it off. I found it was so well put together and was so powerful, and it was just it seemed for me when I was watching that scene, I was like, if he can't survive that little street, he can't survive anything.
No, absolutely.
This is just his personal hell.
I from my experience watching it, I was like, he's done with these hearing aids. It's over. He's not going back. I picture him going back to the community and just not even using them and begging to be taken back, and he's going to end up falling in love with that teacher. That's honestly, that's the outcome of the movie that I see in my mind. He's going to go back there. He's going to help teach the kids. He can teach them music with this and live happily ever after with this woman. That's that is my interpretation of that ending, because there's no way. There's no way he's going to be able to survive with these things. It's too hectic for him. He's so fragile, when it comes to sound, because of his time as a musician and as an artist. even though he destroyed it. I don't think he can continue with them.
Do you? But again, like this solution, like, it is not just given to him; it's given to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This like diet version of a hearing aid.
Mm-hmm. The cochlear implant, yeah.
Yeah, it for me like hit me so hard because again, it's not just like him through his like maybe monetary restrictions that he couldn't get like the best thing, or like, there was no like other better solution.
Yeah.
It was that or nothing.
And when the doctor's like, hold on, let me just dial this in for you a little better, I was like, okay, here we go, it's going to get amazing. And it didn't.
I found it was so it just felt so dark that like this is just like the Rolls Royce of hearing aids, that this is just like what they sell this as, this miracle is just like this lie, this horrible lie.
Yes, because it's portrayed in a world where we have to hear. So they are hearing, so it accomplishes the goal, but it's not an enjoyable experience from what the movie's portraying.
Yeah. But even then, I think that Mr. Nobody would not particularly enjoy that kind of thing. I think it's very practical. Like, it's very, like, you will, like, hear-ish. Like, you will be able to walk around. You will be able to, like, get into, like, one-on-one conversations. You will be able to be understood. But apart from that, there's, like, no quality of life that's given to this.
It seemed very, very difficult, and I can't imagine him having a good time playing drums with them. Absolutely.
So I think my question to me kind of like comes up to what's better, to like live with like a half-assed solution, or just to be completely and like in a very like categorical sense of being told you are ripped apart from this in your life. That could be vision, that could be like, knowing that you will like lose an arm or anything. Like, what do you think is your relationship towards that kind of like choice, I would say?
Well, I would say in this situation, if I was in the situation as this character was, I know that I would do a lot more research beforehand. So I would know what I'm spending $40,000 on. And I would know that my hearing wouldn't be what it was before I didn't have it anymore. So I would be more prepared, because he was definitely not prepared. He was totally, I think that's a big problem of it, is that he thought that this was going to be the ultimate solution, and then it's gone. So being in his situation, I would definitely go back to the community and embrace that, because it seems like a place where everyone is just accepted, and it's a place where he can grow and work through the demons that he has to get through before he going out and then conquering the world as a new person, with all of the tools that he would need to strive in a hearing world when you can't hear. That would be what I would do, I think.
Yeah. But again, I feel like we're also coming in a very like detached like perspective, in which we haven't been like exposed to that kind of choice. But again, I think what you were talking about, the whole like mentality of like being an artist and having going so far and being stuck in that loop in which you cannot fail, it's just not possible. I feel like this is like a movie that gives you that cautionary tale of like there is a certain wall that you are gonna hit and you have to like live with it.
That's true. Yeah, and I've done shows. You know, I have a show in mind. I think it was in 2015, maybe earlier, 2014. Summer tour, the last show of the tour in the Netherlands somewhere, I want to say, and I was on stage and I took out my earplugs because I couldn't hear properly. And I remember going home and just having ringing ears, like the tinnitus, and terrified, you know, is this going to go away? What is going to happen? So it happens still as an artist today. Like, you know it's the wrong decision to make, but you take out your earplugs. It's something that happens on stage because you want to perform to the best that you can, but you have to, you know, set up the stage and set up the performances in a way to protect yourself and to make sure that you can hear. But when you're on an extreme metal tour, sometimes those circumstances aren't presented to you. So I strive to keep in my earplugs all the time now, and I succeed at that probably 98% of the time. And I have, you know, come to terms with the sounds that I hear in my head, which is what I've been told by people you need to do. You need to learn to love the sound of your now new silence. If not, it will drive you crazy.
Well, I think you're almost kind of, it's not just to flatter that I will say this, but I think you're almost like a living good example of where the story could have been very similar to this story, but you chose to go the other way. Almost like having a more like less frantic vision of it, I would say, like a more controlled. And like you said, like you already had like that part of you that was like, oh, if that would have been something that would happen to me, I would have done more research. And I believe you like 100%. And I think it's kind of nice to see that like you took the high road, if we could say.
Well, thank you.
But for you, what was the point where you kind of said no?
No, why? Oh, it was really Jessica, my wife. She was like, no, you're going to wear earplugs now. And I did.
It's the woman.
She's a good influence. But, you know, you play these crappy stages sometimes, especially early in my career. You know, there's some dive bar stages. You can't hear yourself. You try your best. You know, you got the cymbals right behind you, like right behind you. The amps are blaring. Sometimes it still happens, but in a perfect world, we will play all the nicest stages with the perfect sounds, and it's not too loud, but metal's meant to be loud. It's meant to be an assault, a physical assault, whether you're in the pit or sonically. It's something that's supposed to hit you, so it comes with the territory. Honestly, a lot of the people that I'm with, they really don't have any problems with their ears. So, you know, my guitarist is a studio engineer. He has his own studio, so he cherishes his ears, takes care of them meticulously. My drummer has been doing it for over 30 years at this point, and he still's got pretty damn good hearing for a guy that's been blasting for 30 plus years. So a lot of the people I've toured with are still in pretty good shape, and I think that ear care in extreme metal is something that is taken seriously. You see a lot of bands just coming up with the just, you know, take an earplug, please take an earplug on their merch table for their fans, and I hope that fans that come to shows protect their ears as well.
Well, I think that's a nice positive light to close this episode. It's a comforting to think that there's hope in this industry and what's been going on, and that people are very like serious about it. Like it sounds stupid, but like just before, like with like professional football, like before concussions weren't taken seriously and everything. So it's not. It's nice to see that things are going forward, and like people are like, even in like the most adrenaline like filled situation, we're still like trying to be smart about what we're doing.
It's a calculated science. It's madness and science all at once, and it's to find that balance. And now in the new world of on stage, there's the singer of AC/DC who had to quit a few years back because he had lost his hearing. But now with the technology that's happening on stage with these things called in-ear monitors, it's basically you have special fitted headphones that fit your specific ear canal, and you put that in there, and it's a special little speaker that's in there that you choose to have exactly what you want in your ears when you're on stage. And that's something that a lot of bands are doing, and that is protecting a bunch of hearing, because you don't hear anything except exactly what you want at the perfect volume, so that it protects your ears in a perfect circumstances. I'm sure that people are still putting that a bit too loud, which is damaging their ears, but it's still better than having the actual concert blasting you. So that's something that's made a big, huge game changer right there.
Well, again, thank God, technology and like people being smart about it. Well, guys, we've been super honored to have you on this show, and your insight is just even more impressive than I imagined. Like, especially with this movie, like you were really the perfect guest for this movie, really. And we're really, really happy to have you. We really hope that you'll come back, and thank you so much for coming. And guys, really watch this movie, even if you're not into like metal or anything. It's a very powerful and moving story, and it took a lot of time from that director to make this story come to life, and it's really worth watching. Like I think you agree to that, right, Matt?
Absolutely, it's a killer movie, and I wrote you. I think I said let's talk about this one. It seems fitting. Is all I said. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was my pleasure.
Well,
I was happy to be here with you, and it was a blast. Next time I'll come and we'll drink something with alcohol.
Yeah, this time around. But even though it fitted with the movie, like it's all about sobriety. Like in this movie, people like having alcoholism or addiction to drugs. So it was super fitting.
Perfect.
So thanks for everybody. Next week, I promise we'll talk in French. But this week, it's Matt's week, so we talk in English and we're proud of it.
Oui. La prochaine fois, on peut le faire en français, peut-être.
No. We'll keep you as an English guy. You'll be like the English superstar.
Well, thank you.
So, thanks so much to Matt for coming. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back for another podcast from afar away. Bye, guys. Bye, Matt.
Bye, Matt.